Princess Diana's wedding dress, it's probably one of the most famous pieces of clothing in history, right? It totally defined a decade and created this fairy tale image that millions of people saw. But behind all that silk taffeta and all those pearls, there's a story of secrets, of near disasters and hidden messages that's actually way more fascinating than the fairy tale itself. So let's pull back the curtain and find out what was really going on with the world's most famous dress. The design became a complete obsession for the press all over the world. It forced the designers to treat it like a state secret. Seriously, the effort they went to keep this dress under wraps was just extraordinary. But the real secrets, they weren't just about stopping leaks to the media. Because what if I told you there was a totally different secret backup dress, a dress that has since vanished? Or that the big reveal on the wedding day was almost a catastrophe in the eyes of its creators, and that the most romantic details of all were completely hidden from view? Yeah, that's the real story we're getting into today. Okay, so to understand the secrets, you first have to understand the pressure. This wasn't just any wedding, it was a global event. Diana was stepping onto the world stage as a future queen, and the expectations on everyone involved were just immense. I mean, just try to wrap your head around this number. 750 million people watching live, not to mention another 600,000 people lining the streets of London. Every single stitch, every pearl, every fold of fabric, it was all going to be scrutinized by the entire world. The pressure to deliver a perfect moment was almost unimaginable. And the designers, David and Elizabeth Emanuel, they knew exactly what this moment called for. They weren't aiming for subtle. The 1980s were all about frills and big statements, and they just leaned right into it. They decided to create the ultimate fairy tale princess gown, a dress that was pure, unapologetic drama. But creating a fairy tale didn't mean they had a blank canvas. Not at all. The Emanuels had to work within a really strict framework of royal tradition, honoring the brides who came before Diana. You see, royal wedding fashion is like a conversation through history. It all started back in 1840, when Queen Victoria decided to wear a white gown, which was unusual at the time, and it made the white wedding dress popular everywhere. Crucially, she used British-made lace to support the local industry. Fast forward to 1947, and Queen Elizabeth's modest, long-sleeved gowns set a new standard. So for Diana's dress, the Emanuels had to juggle all of that. The white color, the British materials, the modesty, the long train, while still somehow making it feel totally new and very 1980s. So once the design was set, the next challenge was keeping it a secret. And the lengths they went to, it was straight out of a spy movie. The press was so relentless, they were literally sifting through their garbage for clues. The paranoia was real. They installed these heavy-duty blinds, hired 2 security guards, Jim and Burr, to watch over the dress around the clock. Sketches were locked away in a metal cabinet, and to top it all off, they would deliberately throw scraps of the wrong-colored threads into the trash cans just to send reporters on a wild goose chase. And the secrecy, it extended to every single element. Take the veil, for instance. The embroidery of 10,000 tiny mother-of-pearl sequins was trusted to just one person, Peggy Umpleby. To get it done on time, she told her colleagues she was going on vacation. But in reality, she spent 2 solid weeks sitting at her kitchen table, embroidering until 5 in the morning, night after night, to finish all 139 meters of tulle in total isolation. But believe it or not, all those decoys and guards, that wasn't even their biggest secret. The Emanuels had a trump card up their sleeve in case the design ever got leaked, an entirely different second dress that Diana herself never even laid eyes on. And the backup dress was so different. We all know the iconic gown with its huge puffed sleeves and that epic train, but this secret backup was much sleeker. It had these delicate fluted sleeves, a V-neck with a ruffled trim, and an embroidered skirt. It was a completely different vision. And the biggest mystery of all, to this day, the backup dress has vanished. No one knows where it is. So beyond the secrets they kept from the public, there were these other secrets woven right into the dress itself, little romantic gestures and personal touches that only a handful of people knew about. Diana honored that timeless bridal tradition perfectly. For her something old, they stitched a square of ancient Carrick Macross lace that once belonged to Prince Charles's great-grandmother, Queen Mary, right onto the gown. The dress itself was the something new. The stunning Spencer family tiara was something borrowed, and for her something blue, a tiny blue bow was secretly sewn right into the waistband. Of all the hidden details, though, the most personal and romantic one was completely invisible to the world. It was hidden on the soles of her wedding slippers. So the cobbler, Clive Shilton, spent 6 months creating these low-heeled slippers, covering them in hundreds of sequins and pearls. But the real secret was underneath. On the arches, he hand-painted a heart and the initials C and D for Charles and Diana, a hidden declaration of love that she literally walked on all day long. After months of planning, all that secrecy, and all that painstaking work, you'd think the final reveal would be flawless, right? Well, not quite. The dress's most dramatic feature actually created the day's biggest and most public challenge. The problem was space. That magnificent 25-foot train, the longest in royal history, by the way, was simply too much fabric to fit inside the glass coach with both Diana and her father. So during the ride to St. Paul's Cathedral, that beautiful ivory silk taffeta got badly creased. Can you even imagine, as Diana stepped out of that coach in front of 750 million people, her designer, Elizabeth Emanuel, saw the wrinkles. She later said she was horrified. She said she actually felt faint, thinking it was a disaster after all their work to create this perfect image. But then something unexpected happened. As Diana walked down that long aisle, the creases just sort of softened. Even Emanuel herself later reflected that the imperfections somehow made the moment more real, more romantic. She said Diana looked like a butterfly emerging from a chrysalis, a beautiful human bride, not just a perfect, untouchable princess. And that moment, creases and all, cemented the dress in history. It kicked off a whole decade of big sleeves and full skirts, and bridal experts still call it the gold standard. It's a piece of clothing that tells a story not just of a wedding, but of immense pressure, incredible secrecy, and deeply personal romance. The dress was meant to be a perfect fairy tale, but maybe its true legacy is in its secrets. The missing backup dress, the frantic efforts to hide it, those invisible romantic gestures, and the final visible creases. It kind of reminds us that even in a fairy tale, the most human and memorable moments are often the ones that aren't quite perfect.